The Justice Department has finally released some of the highly anticipated Epstein files. More than 300,000 pages of documents related to the late convicted offender were made public today. They include photos, flight logs, grand jury testimony, and a lot of heavy.
Broke moments ago. The Democrats on the House Oversight Committee have released photos from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. We're getting dribs and drabs of this, and we had some pictures already, and here's some. There are some that show Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, Steve Bannon, Bill Gates, and others. None of the released images depicts any misconduct. None is believed to depict underage girls. It was not immediately clear when or where.
Portia de Rossi, Ellen DeGeneres' wife of nearly 20 years, has reportedly told federal investigators that Ellen brought a 13-year-old Justin Bieber to a private gathering on Jeffrey Epstein's island. And this is not coming from some distant acquaintance floating around the edges of the story. This is Ellen's spouse. According to people who claim to know what Portia allegedly told investigators, she also brought up a safe. Inside that safe, she reportedly said, are photographs from the gathering. Photos Ellen supposedly locked away and told Portia never to ask about again. So, just picture that for a moment. A woman married to one of the most recognizable people on television sitting down with federal agents and describing what she says is physical evidence that could turn an already ugly scandal into something far more serious. And right now, the difference between that safe staying hidden and agents showing up with a warrant may come down to whether the government believes her.
We have a congressional act now to requiring the release, but they're going to say, you know
subject
what?
To
Tom
redaction.
Hanks, it's unfair that he was mentioned because
the law
he was eating
says
Skittles.
Subject to redaction. Subject to redaction.
And we all know what that means. That's to protect.
That's why I'm saying you will never be satisfied with what's released.
Sit with that for a second. A wife does not usually step into a federal investigation casually. Portia has been married to Ellen since 2008. She was there. She was reportedly on that yacht in early 2011 when it stopped near Epstein's island. Multiple anonymous sources say Portia never went ashore, but Ellen did. And what Portia allegedly described to investigators was not vague Hollywood gossip she heard from someone else at a party. It was, according to these accounts, her own version of what she saw afterward. She allegedly watched Ellen come back to the yacht acting strange and defensive. She says she asked what happened, and Ellen told her never to bring it up again. On its own, that would be a major claim, but it lands differently because of who is making it: a spouse. The person who may know exactly where the private secrets are kept. Now, this is the part that has to be handled carefully because even the sources behind it admit there is a big limitation here. We do not have Portia's full testimony. We have second-hand accounts from people claiming to know what she told federal agents. That is not a transcript. It is not a recording. And that difference matters. But that uncertainty is also what creates the tension around the whole story. From an evidence standpoint, it makes everything harder to pin down. From a drama standpoint, it makes the situation feel even more unstable. If Portia is lying, people will immediately point to a possible motive. The marriage has been rumored to be in terrible shape. Tabloids have been running divorce speculation for months. But if she is telling the truth, then she may be the one witness Ellen would fear more than anyone. The audience cannot really resolve that from the outside, and that is why the story keeps pulling people back in. But pause there because the story is not resting only on one alleged conversation. Portia has reportedly told investigators that weeks after the island stop, a package arrived. Inside that package, according to these second-hand accounts, were photographs from the gathering. Ellen allegedly locked those photographs in a safe, became paranoid about anyone finding them, and told Portia never to ask about them again. That detail matters because it points to something physical, not only a memory, not only one person's version of a conversation. A safe somewhere, possibly in their Montecito mansion, or possibly in their farmhouse in the English Cotswolds. The sources do not claim to know exactly which property, but the alleged existence of that safe puts the situation in a different place. Federal investigators would not need Portia to sit for a television interview. They would not need a divorce filing. They would need a judge to decide her alleged testimony is credible enough to support a search warrant.
Brings it all together with a bow for her, doesn't it? She probably wants to get out early. So I think that we have more digging to do. I think the DOJ transparency effort here is the right thing. But the reason it's on a Friday, Will, is I think there are no smoking guns. There's other places we have to look.
And if that happens, it does not come with a warning. A search warrant is not a polite appointment on the calendar. It lands one morning. No call ahead. No time to move anything again. Just a knock at the door and paperwork saying agents are coming inside. If those photographs exist, and if they show what Portia reportedly described, then Ellen would not simply be dealing with another round of tabloid headlines. She would be facing a criminal investigation involving a living victim. That would move the story out of the world of reputation damage and into something much more serious. And for Ellen, the frightening part is that it could happen before the public sees any of it coming. The timing of Ellen's moves over the last 2 years only makes the whole thing harder to read. After Donald Trump won the election in November 2024 and began threatening to release the Epstein files publicly, Ellen and Portia moved to England. They bought a farmhouse in the Cotswolds. Publicly, the reason given was political disillusionment, but the timeline is hard to ignore. Trump wins. The Epstein files become a public threat. Ellen leaves the country within weeks. To a lot of people, that looks like someone trying to get distance. And yet, late last year, Ellen and Portia came back. They bought a $27.4 million mansion in Montecito, California, just weeks before the DOJ released more than 3 million pages of Epstein files on January 30th, 2026. So, what are people supposed to make of that? Was she running, or was she confident enough to return? There is no clean read on it because both things happened. She left, then she came back, and now the files are public. Her name appears in them, and her wife has allegedly already told federal investigators what she says happened around that island. The DOJ files themselves are important here because they do not show what the wildest rumors online have claimed. Snopes searched the released documents and found Ellen's name, but not in a way that places her on Epstein's island or connects her to Justin Bieber. Her name appears in a college graduation speech. It appears in an Apple newsletter about the misconduct allegations on her show. It also appears in an email from a publicist mentioning seeing Ellen dancing at a party on St. Bart's. None of that puts Ellen on Epstein's island. None of it connects her to Bieber. The claim that the files prove something much darker has already been debunked. So the official record, at least from what has been released and reviewed, points to benign mentions, no island evidence, and no minor victim. But anonymous insiders are claiming Portia privately told investigators something very different. That gap between the public documents and what a spouse allegedly said in a confidential setting is exactly why this story keeps getting attention.
If you tend towards cynicism or skepticism, you might wonder, is everything about Epstein and his powerful male friends, is that coming out? That remains.
Now, bring the divorce rumors back into the picture because they change the pressure around everything. For months, anonymous tabloid sources have claimed Portia de Rossi feels trapped, that the marriage is in bad shape, and that she has been seriously considering filing. By itself, that sounds like the usual celebrity breakup cycle. But in this situation, a divorce would have real consequences. Right now, Portia may still be limited by some kind of confidentiality arrangement. If she files, that could change. A public split can shift what someone is willing or able to say. She could speak. She could give interviews. She could sit down with a journalist and confirm or deny the claims anonymous sources have been making in her name. And Ellen DeGeneres may have very little ability to stop her. So, this is not only about whether Portia has already testified. It is also about whether she ever chooses to say any of it publicly, on the record, with her own name attached outside the protection of a sealed federal process. And according to the same chain of anonymous insiders, Ellen knows how dangerous that could become. She is reportedly in panic mode. She has allegedly brought in crisis PR teams. She has talked to lawyers about what Portia can and cannot legally disclose. She has reportedly been reaching out to old friends to figure out who is still loyal. Of course, panic does not prove guilt. A person can panic because they did something wrong, or because they are terrified of being publicly accused of something they did not do. But what makes this feel heavier is where the panic is supposedly happening. Portia is still in the house. They are still married. They still own property together. They are reportedly living under the same roof. So, the person who allegedly gave testimony that could put Ellen in legal danger is also the person Ellen comes home to. It is not some clean split between accuser and accused. It is a marriage turning into a standoff, with both sides possibly holding leverage the other side cannot fully see. So, step back and look at the threats still in motion because there are several of them, and they are not all moving on the same schedule. First, Portia could file for divorce at any time. That would be public. It would trigger instant media coverage, and it might open the door for her to speak more freely. Second, federal investigators could execute a search warrant on Ellen's properties without warning. That does not require a divorce. It does not require Portia to go public. It only requires a judge to find her alleged testimony credible enough. Third, the DOJ files are still being reviewed. More than 3 million pages were released, and investigators and journalists are still digging through them. There could be something in there that has not surfaced yet. And fourth, there is a living witness who has not spoken directly about this claim. Justin Bieber. He has publicly described himself as a party favor. He has said he was someone people could take off the table. He has not named names, but silence is not the same as closure. It just leaves the question sitting there.
He feels like he was wronged by a lot of people around him, and Usher was one of the people that presumably knew what was going on in Justin's life and stood back and said nothing.
Usher is one person who could have understood Justin's point of view because he was a young teen star who became the biggest.
What makes the situation so hard to look away from is that Ellen does not appear to control any of these timelines. She cannot stop Portia from filing for divorce. She cannot stop a search warrant if authorities decide the evidence is credible. She cannot stop the continued review of the DOJ files. And she cannot stop Justin Bieber from one day deciding to speak. The only thing she may still control is whether that alleged safe stays closed. And even that control would disappear the moment someone comes to the door with a warrant. Ellen DeGeneres is back in the United States. She is living in a $27.4 million mansion in Montecito, next door to Oprah Winfrey. From the outside, it looks like a return to normal life. But according to people who claim to know what is happening behind the scenes, things are far from settled. Her wife has allegedly already told federal investigators a story that cannot simply be taken back. A safe with photographs from Epstein's island allegedly exists somewhere in Ellen's possession. Portia may or may not be moving toward a divorce that could let her speak publicly without the same confidentiality limits. And federal investigators could, in theory, execute a search warrant at any time, without negotiation and without warning. Ellen cannot fully control any of that. She can only wait to see which part of it reaches her first.
We've seen dozens of new photos we haven't seen before of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell with very high-profile people, celebrities, people like Mick Jagger and Michael Jackson, like you showed, also like British royalty and actors. All of that we sort of knew was happening. I want to highlight specifically two for the public interest, and that is President Clinton and
Let us rewind to something that happened long before the current headlines, because the more you look at this story, the older some of the strange connections seem to get. Back in 2001, and Hetchy was getting married. She was on Ally McBeal at the time, and one of her co-stars was a young actress named Portia de Rossi. At that wedding, Portia allegedly pulled Hetchy aside and said something that sounds almost unreal now. According to Hetchy, Portia told her she was going to go after Ellen. This was years before Portia and Ellen ever got together. Years before the talk show became what it became. Before the marriage, before all of it. Hetchy said she warned Portia that becoming the poster child for that relationship would not be easy. She remembered saying, "Red flag, red flag, red flag." Does that prove anything by itself? No. But it is a strange thing to hear from someone who would later become Ellen's wife. And it has been sitting quietly in the background of this story ever since. There is another piece of history that changes the way people look at the marriage. When Ellen and Portia first got together in 2004, they were both already with other people. Ellen was with photographer Alexandra Hedison. Portia was with singer Francesca Gregorini. Ellen admitted at the time that it was a tough decision. She said she was physically getting sick because she was trying not to say anything. Gregorini later described the experience as harrowing, though she said she eventually made peace with it. None of that is shocking on its own. People leave relationships. It happens. But when you place that history beside what is being alleged now, it takes on a different weight. This marriage began with both people walking away from existing partners. And now, years later, one of them has allegedly gone into a federal investigation and told investigators things that could destroy the other. There is a history of exits around this relationship. Walking away, starting over, leaving something behind. So, it is fair to wonder whether Portia is doing what she has done before when a situation no longer works for her. Now, let us talk about what happened on the other side of the Atlantic, because the move to the UK was not exactly the quiet reset it may have looked like from the outside. After Ellen and Portia settled into their farmhouse in the Cotswolds, they reportedly ran into trouble with the neighbors. And not just in the vague celebrity neighbor way, actual planning permission issues. According to local reports, they built an extension that may have been a technical breach. The concerns were oddly specific. Flood risk and disturbing Roman remains. On its own, that sounds like a small local story, and really, it is. But next to everything else, it becomes one more messy detail in a much bigger picture. They moved to England to get away from scrutiny. They bought a farmhouse in the countryside, probably expecting things to be quieter. And within months, they were reportedly clashing with locals over building codes. Even the escape had problems. That is the kind of detail that makes the story feel more real. Not every problem has to be a federal case. Sometimes, it is just an extension, some annoyed neighbors, and people who do not care how many Emmys you have won.
There was new names in some of the emails that I think investigators need to look at. In particular, I jumped on the name of a modeling agent who, in a similar fashion to Jean-Luc Brunel, who brought underage girls from overseas to Jeffrey Epstein for abuse. There was another man. What was interesting about this other individual is that he also apparently provided young models for Donald Trump's modeling.
While all of that has been unfolding, the public has not exactly been rushing to defend Ellen. Her show ended in May 2022 after 19 seasons. The final season aired after the workplace toxicity allegations had already done serious damage. The Be Kind brand was already cracked. Former employees had described a culture of fear. Producers had been accused of misconduct. Ellen addressed it on air, apologized, and said she was learning, but the show ended anyway. Since then, her attempts to come back have not really landed. Her Netflix special, For Your Approval, was met with a pretty cold response. Critics were not impressed. Audiences did not exactly rally around her. Anonymous insiders told tabloids that the special did not do much to repair her reputation. One source even claimed it only added to the talk that her marriage was in terrible shape. So, you have someone who used to feel untouchable, and now even the comeback is making the situation look messier. It may not be a courtroom issue, but it is a very real public unraveling. And then there is the money angle because, with celebrity stories, there usually is one. The same insiders who claimed the marriage was struggling also said Ellen and Portia had been considering launching a skincare line together. A skincare line after everything. After the show ended, after the toxicity scandal, after the Epstein allegations started circling online. Their alleged plan was to sell face cream. One source called it desperate and said it suggested things were hell at home if they needed a new project to work on together. Of course, there is nothing wrong with two married people starting a business, but the timing is hard to hear with a straight face. People are watching to see whether federal investigators show up at their door, and they are reportedly thinking about product names. It would almost be funny if the rest of the story did not carry stakes this serious. Epstein's operation was much wider than one island, and the recent document releases have made that clearer. The DOJ files included passports, visas, and identification cards from 7 different countries: Russia, Italy, the Czech Republic, South Africa, Ukraine, Morocco, and Lithuania. all with female profile photos and all with the identifying information blacked out. Those do not sound like a few random records lying around. They point to something international. And the emails released alongside those files show recruiters offering Epstein young women from different countries, describing their measurements, their ages, and where they were from. One recruiter asked for $1,000 per person. Another offered a 19-year-old from Russia. Another described a student from Virginia who was modeling for the summer. This was not hidden in some abstract way. It was happening through email chains that the government now has in evidence. So, when Portia reportedly told investigators that Ellen went ashore on Epstein's island, the allegation does not sit inside a small, isolated story. It gets placed against a system that appears to have been larger, older, and more organized than many people understood.
And when it came to Maxwell, it was about the idea, right, they would bring these girls in, and then they would have them recruit other girls, and that was kind of the network that was being built up. From a prosecutorial point of view, from a legal point of view, if somebody's looking at this and saying, wait a minute, I'm looking at these filings, and they're identifying certain people, or they're redacting certain other people, and they say, there's not enough evidence to charge this person, or limited evidence regarding involvement. What does that mean? So for a layperson,
the legal side is where things get uncomfortable. The statute of limitations has been a major issue in Epstein-related cases for years, especially when people are talking about events from a long time ago. But there are exceptions. If evidence was concealed, if victims were minors at the time, if the conduct crossed state lines or international borders, the clock can sometimes extend or reset. Federal prosecutors have shown they are willing to look back decades when they believe the evidence supports it. Diddy is currently sitting in jail facing charges tied to events that allegedly happened years ago. So, the idea that something from early 2011 would automatically be too old to prosecute is not necessarily true. It depends on what evidence exists, when it was discovered, and whether the government can prove a continuing pattern. Portia's alleged testimony, if it exists, could be what gives prosecutors a reason to start pulling on that thread. The neighbors in Montecito must be having a very strange year. Imagine living next door to a $27.4 million mansion that used to belong to Brian Grazer. You see the moving trucks. You see Ellen DeGeneres and Portia de Rossi settle in, plant flowers, walk their dogs, and try to look like any other wealthy couple starting over. Then you open your phone and read that one of them has reportedly told federal investigators the other brought a 13-year-old to Epstein's island. The contrast is almost absurd. On one side of the hedges, somebody is watering the lawn. On the other side, a marriage is allegedly sitting on top of a legal bomb. That is the kind of detail that does not really belong in a legal filing. It belongs in the strange texture of real life, where normal routines keep going even when something huge may be happening behind the gates. You know what has not been talked about enough in all of this? The way rumors grow when the people at the center of them say nothing. Ellen has not given a full interview addressing the Epstein allegations. Portia has not either. Justin Bieber has not spoken directly about this claim. So, the silence creates a vacuum, and that vacuum fills fast. The cannibal rumor spread because there was no denial fast enough to stop it. The Portia testimony rumor keeps circulating because nobody will confirm it or shut it down. Every day that passes without a statement, a denial, an interview, or even a controlled leak, the silence starts to feel less like privacy and more like fear. And for people watching from the outside, that only makes the story easier to believe, even while the evidence remains unclear.
Is and never was part of the Epstein files. She was sentenced in 2025. This was an interview by Trump's lawyer to protect Trump from the fallout about the Epstein files. What this really is nothing but a sketchy PR stunt by the Department of Justice. And we have seen this movie before. The Maxwell interview is to the Epstein files what the Barr letter was to the Mueller investigation.
Let us bring this back to Portia one more time because she is still the person everything keeps turning around. The old and hetchy anecdote. The way the relationship began with both women leaving other partners. The alleged testimony. The divorce rumors. The reported panic from Ellen. The safe that may or may not exist. The photographs that may or may not be inside it. She is connected to almost every strange piece of this story. Without her, you have a lot of suspicion floating around without one clear center. With her, you have a specific person who was allegedly there on the yacht, close enough to see what happened afterward. That is why the story keeps circling back to her. The evidence has not been proven, but she may be the one person who could turn scattered claims into something much harder for Ellen to ignore. So, this is where things stand. The investigation is still moving. The file review is still moving. The marriage is reportedly hanging by a thread. The safe has not been found. Bieber has not spoken. Ellen has not directly denied the specific allegations. And people are waiting to see which piece moves first. Does Portia file? Does a warrant land? Does someone leak the alleged testimony? Does Bieber eventually decide to speak in his own words? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This story is not finished, not even close. We will keep watching.